In this episode of Values-Based Safety, we'll look at feedback, specifically positive feedback that goes beyond just safes. And we'll clear up any possible confusion about the term feedback. I'm Terry McSween, and welcome to Values-Based Safety. Feedback must be an integral part of the observation process, and it must be immediate. Some VBS systems separate out filling out the checklist and the feedback part. Once you start doing that, workers will begin to think of observations as a secret police-like network. Observers must provide feedback every time they observe, and it must be positive. But what do we mean by positive feedback? First of all, feedback is simply information about behavior. The behavior can be safe, or it can be a behavior that causes you concern. Some think positive feedback is only about focusing on safe behaviors. But if I saw you wearing your safety glasses and said, "It's about time you started wearing those," that's negative, and it's not helping the person. Additionally, if I tell you you did a good job or you were safe, that means little and doesn't positively reinforce anything. On the other hand, if a worker is not following a safe lockout procedure and you focus only on the positive aspect of the worker wearing safety glasses, that's negative in a different way, and you're missing an opportunity to stop an injury. Positive feedback is given to encourage safe behavior. Feedback on concerns to encourage a change to a safer behavior. So how do we put that in action? Two-way communication. That can be difficult to generate in a positive manner. The best way to do that is easy, in that it should be a normal, everyday conversation. To help you get started, we'll show you a tested feedback model that provides a foundation for two-way conversation that's essential to a successful VBS process. Most importantly, you must practice giving positive feedback regularly. We've been raised in a culture where we seem to give feedback only if something is bad. You married people know what I'm talking about. Just kidding. Well, not really. Anyway, it takes practice, practice, practice. And before you know it, you'll be getting love everywhere. Here we go with the first step. Make feedback right here, right now. Immediate feedback is simply more effective and helps to ensure that the feedback remains an integral part of the observations. Not giving someone immediate feedback is like a golf coach seeing a problem with your swing, then calling you a week later to explain the problem. You will either have no idea what he's telling you, or you won't know how to fix it. It's too late. You've heard the old saying, no news is good news. Well, in VBS, that never applies to feedback. If someone stands and watches you do something, jots some notes on a clipboard, and then goes off into an office, what might be going through your mind? I assure you, it probably won't be something positive. So if you say nothing to your coworker after you observe, you likely won't be seen as positive, and that defeats the purpose of VBS. Also, choose a natural time to stop the work to give feedback. For example, if your coworker is rewinding material, don't interrupt the process. Wait for a logical point where the worker can pause for your feedback. Exceptions to the immediate part are rare, but would include any occasion in which stopping to discuss the observation would create a hazard. Any time when the observations are conducted in a high-noise environment, or other special situations, such as maybe working in a paint booth where both the worker and observer are likely to be wearing breathing apparatus that would make it difficult to talk. So always provide feedback immediately or as soon as practical. Apply this. Take a look at the continuing observation of Wayne cutting wood on this cold Dallas morning. Here, Earl will offer positive feedback on safe behaviors. See if the observer gives immediate feedback and at least says something about what he saw, stops at the right time to talk, or if he has to wait due to a special circumstance.
Hi, Wayne. What I was observing was you were doing a good job of wearing your eye and face protection. And you're doing a good job of keeping your work area clear and organized.
Earl did a good job of braving the cold temperatures and giving immediate feedback, telling his coworker what he saw. He waited until the saw blade stopped to give the feedback, which was good. Please note that if it would have been too loud on the site to adequately hear the feedback, it would have been fine to wait until they were in a quiet area, like a warm break room, as long as he didn't wait too long. But I'm proud of Earl for not waiting and doing it immediately. However, there were times where it looked like he was reading from the observation sheet, which, if you're not careful, can seem a little insincere with certain individuals, which we'll cover next. Keep a positive tone. Feedback is more effective if you make it personal. You can knock down any barrier of us versus them by using I, not we. Notice the difference. I appreciate how you locked out the circuit panel before you changed the light switch. We appreciate how you locked out. Do you see the difference? Who's we? When you use we, you'll likely be seen in at least one of several ways. If you use we, workers may think you represent management and you're a spy. Or they may even think you have a multiple personality disorder. And if you do, fine. Just ask the more positive one to use I, not we. Focus on only one, maybe two positive behaviors. Never overdo it. If you start listing every single behavior that you saw, you run the risk of diluting the message. So if the biggie was a desirable lockout behavior, don't start going down the list of eye protection, proper face protection, hearing protection, lifting with legs, wearing gloves, etc., etc. Or you'll lose your effectiveness. Focus on one or two prominent behaviors. Make sure the feedback you're providing fits. It may seem obvious, but don't tell someone they wore proper face protection when they didn't. And if everyone always wears their hearing protection every day, don't make that the key safe behavior that you discuss every time you observe. Please don't read to your coworker. I love reading to my son, but he's in kindergarten. If you take your list and say, you did good on eye and face protection, hearing protection, ladders, kept your eyes on work, eyes on path, it will have little meaning to your coworker. Finally, always speak from the heart. If you're impressed that a worker wore their safety glasses, don't rave as though they just discovered the secret to world peace. Just tell the worker that you appreciate seeing their eyes being protected and mean it. Sincerely, like I'm doing. Apply this. Watch this observer offer positive feedback on safe behaviors. Take note to see if the observer uses I, not we, doesn't overdo it by going down the entire list, is appropriate and fits the situation, and doesn't read to his coworker and talks from the heart.
Hey, Stoney. Man, I really appreciate you allowing me to do this observation on you. I enjoy doing it, man. You've done a great job. And when I observed you, you made sure that your hands were away from the pinch points. You made sure that you moved your whole body away. There wasn't nothing in the floor to trip you up or anything like that. You made sure your hands were clear, especially when you're sitting there doing all that welding action. Man, that's great that you made sure your fingers didn't hit anything, your pliers were where you could grab them, easy access, that was real good. And your work fast, that's really you sweating now. You still sweat from how hard you worked a while ago.
I really like the way this observer talks to his coworker. He never used we, he used I, such as, I appreciate you letting me do the observation. He used a conversational tone and spoke specifically to the work that he observed. He never read from the observation sheet, and no doubt he spoke from the heart. However, the observer didn't really give his coworker an opportunity to respond, which is key to successful feedback. If you learn nothing else from this series, ensure that you learn the feedback model and include pause and listen. Finally, follow the feedback model. For positive feedback, it has 4 steps. If you can do this right, you'll be amazed at how far you can get. Remember, Effective feedback is a two-way conversation. I'll admit it would be easier just to tell your coworkers what you have to say and move on. But after you get the hang of letting them talk, you'll find that they will be much more open to your feedback when you listen to what they have to say too. Here's a feedback framework to use as a tool in discussing your observation. First, describe the behavior you observed, such as, "I noticed you kept your back straight when lifting that pallet." Don't say, "You were safe," or "You did a good job." Such statements are not clear descriptions of the behavior you observed. "You wore your safety glasses." Describe specifically what you saw. After you describe the behavior, state the impact of the behavior you observed. This part will keep your feedback genuine. For example, using your legs will reduce the stress on your lower back. Then put it all together. "I noticed you kept your back straight while lifting the pallet. Using your legs will reduce the stress on your lower back." Believe it or not, here's the part most new observers have problems with: saying nothing. Wait, pause, let them respond. Maybe they agree, maybe they don't. Either way, if you never pause to give your coworkers a chance to talk, they'll never engage. So again, after putting it all together, as in, "I noticed you kept your back straight while lifting that pallet. Using your legs will reduce the stress on your lower back." Pause, offer them the floor. Finally, the next problem new observers often have is listening. Remember, the best way to listen is with your ears, not your mouth. Listening will at least let you know where the person is coming from. And trust me, they'll be more willing to listen to you if they know you're willing to listen to them. Again, after putting it all together, as in, "I noticed you kept your back straight while lifting that pallet. Using your legs will help reduce the stress on your lower back." Pause and listen. Apply this. Watch this observer give feedback on safe behaviors. Take note to see if the observer follows all 4 steps of our feedback model. States the behavior, describes the impact, then pauses and listens.
You know, one thing I noticed when you were welding, Nate, when you got through welding, you would hang your helmet up over there and you get your face shield down, you kept your helmet and your face shield hung up there in the way.
Yeah.
In neat order, and that way there you wouldn't get no dust or anything in them. That's a real good idea, Nate. I like seeing stuff like that.
Well, see, I do like that because it's accessible, it's out the way, and I can get it real easy when I get ready for it. So I just hang it up there.
This is an excellent example of using the feedback model for safe behavior. He described the behavior. You kept your helmet and your face shield hung up over there out of the way. Then he described the impact. That way you don't get any dust in them and it's out of the way. Then he did an excellent job doing what most don't. He paused and listened to what Nate had to say. Just pausing allowed Nate to have a voice. But even better, Nate added another reason to hang his helmet and face shield by saying it's accessible. Which brings up a common positive side effect. Research has shown observers learn as much, if not more, while doing observations. Here's a real-life example of why that's true. The observer showed how the behavior of hanging the PPE can keep metal dust or shavings from getting in the eyes, while the observee added the benefit of improved accessibility. And if workers like this observer know where the equipment is, and that it's clean, and that it's accessible, it improves the chances it'll be worn. Classic values-based safety at work. I love it. So pause and listen and feel the sensation of your brain overflowing with knowledge. Remember, the goal is to make this a positive two-way conversation. To do so, try the feedback model anytime you're giving feedback to someone. Describe what you saw the person doing, state the impact, then pause and listen. You can use it with virtually anyone, except maybe psychopaths and those darling teenagers.
What's wrong with you?
This is Terry McSween, making safety a value with values-based safety. rocked.
Yeah.
No,
With Module 3.
no, I mean I rocked on my feet.